Hey, Islam family, peace and love. It's Walter Bay. I'm here back again. I want to bring the Moorish American estate status of the Republic today. Um, Give some clarity on some things in law so people understand what's really going on. Um, there's been city lockdowns, or what you could say looks like a soft martial law going on right now in a lot of cities across the country, in Northwest and Mixum. Now, a lot of things that are going on. There's some almost widespread panic among people who don't really know. And this video is really for proclaimed Moorish Americans, but it can help any Moors, that may be out here dealing with this. And, you would definitely need to get with you a well qualified Moor um, during these times and stay in touch with them. I had a couple things that I saw transpiring this morning. I saw this video. I'm not gonna play it, but basically there were about 75 tanks and trucks, military trucks, on a train heading toward Houston, and has people really nervous. And these were also military trucks spotted in Beaumont, Texas. Which is maybe an hour and a half, maybe a little bit further off from Houston, uh, misnomer area. So I wanted to bring some clarity on some of the things that I've been hearing the last few days, some of the questions, and answer a few of these questions the best way I can to get people to understanding what's going on and hopefully bring some solutions um, up that would really help. Okay. Um, Now, as far as things going, this is bringing up the right to travel. That was one of the main questions I've been getting is do Moors have the right to travel, or do Moors still have the right to travel um, during these city lockdowns or what you would call city orders as of right now. And I can't speak extremely broad because they may vary from jurisdiction to jurisdiction, and that is what you have to understand. So we do need to know how to look up certain things in law to understand what's going on in particular. So what I can tell you from what's going down here, in the territory that I'm in Texas territory, the governor has issued a certain order, and then the county judge in Harris County, which is the main county for Houston, has issued another order. And these orders do hold certain weight, and I want people to understand that. And I'm going to be going over that a little bit later on to really break that down and specifically um, how deep it is that they do apply. But do Moors have the right to travel? Yes, personal and privately. Yes, you have the right to travel. Um, there may be some certain situations going on. So I'm gonna get to this next question. Is it legal to restrict travel during a pandemic? And my answer is kinda. And I'm gonna break that down. Um, the thing is, if you're a Moor, especially anyone who follows me or is into right to travel, um, and has been through the injunction process, which I do teach and help people with, but also there are a few other Moors that teach an injunction process, and it may be similar to what we have going on, but um, I can't speak specifically into the details of other injunctions, but um, going by all the proper process um, that we found in different actual form books of law where they speak on injunctions, and in the civil and criminal procedure um, where they speak on injunctions, um, when it comes to the weight of it and enforcement, there are a few reasons in there specifically that even though you're being put on a do not stop list, there are a few reasons that you can still be stopped that are valid in particular. Um, and these are things that when we're getting into the different types of crime, um, a common law crime versus a commercial crime. So, in the common law, which is the, well, you could say for point of reference, it's a higher form of law, not necessarily the highest form of law, but a higher form of law, common law. Um, a common law crime is when you actually um, injure a person, a particular party, or there is property damage. So, in the case of travel, when it comes to traveling in a land vessel on roads, public or private, especially public, you have to understand that if you are doing something that is committing a common law crime that may be harmful to someone, causing extreme public safety hazard, or causing injury to someone else. These are things that kind of remove that jurisdiction um, blockade on that would be on them normally. That would kind of take away your protection of that injunction, because even though you do have the right to travel, even though you are putting in this paperwork and going through this process, um, you know you must remain in honor at all times. So, if you're out here, drunk so bad that you're clearly swinging from lane to lane and can't keep straight and may cause someone harm, there's no reason they shouldn't stop you. That is clear across the board. So, in the case of a pandemic, you would have to define what they're calling public safety hazard, and especially extreme public safety hazard. Are you a hazard to anyone else? Are you going to some place of social gathering, what they're talking about now, where it would be of a public safety hazard? Are you sick? Do you have a fever, the flu, or showing any symptoms? Or are you going to a place where there's going to be that many people in a social gathering where it would be potentially hazardous to you? Um, but beyond that scope, at this present moment, you know, I would say anything beyond that is unconstitutional. So, in the realms of what they saying is a curfew, a time limit on when someone can travel, you know, I would say, personally, and I'm not saying anyone, to do anything without all the research, but I would say your right to travel still would apply. And if something were to happen in law, you would have remedy because of it, you know. So, can travel be restricted? Kind of. The thing is, what situations, would you be in where they would deem you to be a public safety hazard? Um, because as of now, I can say, in our territory, for the most part, even though they're saying, what do they say, bunker down at home, or whatever they're calling it, they want people to stay home. You can still go out to grocery stores, public parks, but you just can't, be on the playgrounds or any, surfaces, and you have to social distance yourself, be within 6 feet. Um, so in essential businesses, things of that sort are still going to be open. So it's not a complete martial law, lockdown on travel. So, um, the biggest concerns, would be um, if they did, start restricting travel even further than that, saying, you can't even come down this street, you need to go back home or you're going to get arrested. Um, and, even with the curfew issue, that could be somewhat um, of an issue. And I've seen things where they're trying to take away the liberties and give judges the power to basically detain someone without trial indefinitely, until, pretty much it seems like at the judge's leisure to release it. It doesn't seem like they have any statute of limitation on that. And, definitely a horrible thing if they do go into that. And, Moors, we do understand how to fight these type of things. So, you know, you would definitely want to put your remedies in place, if you do get caught up in those type of situations. But, I would say myself, if you can, you know, limit your traveling, stock up, like the prophet said, and have a 90-day supply. This could be the time he was talking about, you know, but, you know, um, I'm gonna get into the next question. Can local, state, Fed, Army, etc., takes jurisdiction over public roads slash highways? Um, Under one condition, is my answer to that, and that goes back to the extreme public safety hazard. What I was just talking about. Um, the Army, in particular, the National Guard, maybe, well, I'll say almost definitely is who we're seeing come out in the cities when we're seeing these tanks coming out. Houston, Beaumont. I've heard California, and I'm sure other cities. Or it's the same thing. So if if it were a zombie outbreak, I'd say shutting down travel might be justifiable. But you know for this flu-like pandemic, of what we're seeing, I'm not thinking it needs to be that extreme. Um, True, there are a lot of Europeans dying, a lot of Europeans dying from this. But um, as far as what we're seeing is not as many of us, and I'm gonna get to more of that when I get into the health segment of it. Um, but I do want to get to this next question. Um, and it was, who has the status or rank to assert Moorish jurisdiction over undocumented Moors? Um, and This question was actually in pertaining to travel. Um, Someone asking about basically their family. They have people in their family who, um, when they said undocumented, what they meant was that they're not proclaimed Moors. They have Moorish blood, Moors in their family, but they themselves haven't proclaimed their nationality. And um, I would say any proclaimed Moor can be a secure party for all of their family, but in the situations that we're in pertaining to travel, um, especially if we're um, gonna deal with the martial law aspects of it. If there's state, federal, or even army forces out there on the roads doing roadblocks and things of that sort, um, I would say you would want to get with Moors that are not just proclaimed and on the record, but are operating from a foreign government, or Moors in a um, governmental position, and particularly in a Moorish government. Um, Me myself, I'm an officer, the prime minister in the Texas territories for the Great Seal, National Association of Moorish Affairs. Um, but I'm not doing this video necessarily in that capacity. I'm doing it as a Moorish American because this message needs to get out to everyone. And the Great Seal and other Moorish organizations, governments, our local government, the Kingdom of Heaven, um, and a few others have evacuation plans if necessary that I know of. And I'm working with Moors locally in the Tejas territory and all over Mixum and even a few other places, but particularly um, in our continental region. Um, so if we did need to evacuate, if we did need to leave as Moors, um, we would want to do it more diplomatically, I would say, um, with someone that is high ranking, that has their credentials in order. So if there is any interaction, you know, is someone that can speak and come from a point of status and rank, someone that has clearances and knows about clearances and things of these sort, and is able to um, talk diplomatically um, with these other ranking officials of this other jurisdiction. Um, you can say, that they are a de facto government, but the point is that de facto means, operational to a certain extent in the fact that they're recognized to be running things. So even if it's only a custodian capacity, a gentleman, in law as a maximum always gives notice. So we have a treaty with them. We're not at war with them, so we have to act diplomatically. And we need Moors that understand these concepts to be on the front lines of these things, um, especially if it comes down to things getting bad in any particular city. If Moors need to get out, you know, um, I do know that New York is particularly bad. There may be Moors that need to get out of New York. And if New York is in a lockdown stage, but these Moors are um, healthy and clear, to pass, a test to say that they don't have this virus thing, you know, but need to get away from uh, these sick people that do have it, we need people to be able to lead a convoy of themselves and their families out of these situations. And these things are definitely in the works. And if anyone is interested in these things, definitely give me email. Hit me up on the email. I'm gonna leave both my emails in the description. Um, Couple more questions, and I'll be done. I'm not trying to make this one too long, but I definitely want to get some viable answers to these things. Um, I've had a few people ask, is this crisis a health issue for Moorish Americans, meaning the melanated people? And what I would say is partially, yes. Um, from doing my research and from the people who I put my confidence in, I listen to in these things, the people that I study, I would say that Moors, melanated people in general, are definitely less susceptible, less likely to contract and to die from this virus. You know, um, and particularly, melanin is a thing that this virus does not agree with, along with sunlight, which is why Africa, South America, and some of these other places um, that are less European Asianized, um, have way less contact with, and they're not really dealing with it in these masses. A lot of Africa either doesn't and hasn't had it, or the people that have it in particularly and are dying from it are European or Chinese tourists, and not the native peoples of the land, the melanated peoples of those lands. You know, um, Same thing with South America. The Moorish Americans down there, the indigenous Moorish Americans. For the most part, we're not hearing about these things. From what I understand, it's more tourists out there as well. So in the locations where we are, I can say Houston is a very international city. I know LA as well as New York and, several other large cities in America. There are large populations of Europeans and Asians, so it's likely, that these populations of people will be more sickly. And like even in history during the times of the plague, you know, if there were Moors getting the plague then, it was because they were in Europe, around the people who were actually getting sick at these times, because the Africans didn't go through these bubonic plagues. And there's even been reports and books and other sources where Europeans said basically these Africans don't get sick for shit. They ain't catching none of our diseases. But, Europeans and Asians, uh, the paler Asians that are not as strongly melanated, have always been more sickly peoples than us. But, you could probably say it was the Moors that came in with our hygiene and things and actually cleaned up the plague. And, you know, brought an end to that. But at the same time, during that outbreak, if any Moors got the plague, it was the Moors that were in Europe around these peoples that were more likely to suffer from these things. So we must keep that in mind. And, there are Moors that they've said to come down with it. The latest one that hit closest to home to me is Slim Thug. On his Instagram, the rapper, he said he got it. I'm not sure, you know, because I'm not his doctor, or know if his doctor was legit in saying he had it, or just with all of these celebrities that they're coming down saying that have it, just to hype it up. We must consider and keep all these things in mind, but at the same time protect ourselves, especially the ones that are in closer proximity to the peoples that could be sick. And we definitely want to stay away from that at all costs. Um, Last question I have: what more is on the front line of solutions for health and travel for us? Um, Dealing with both. I'll say active Moors in general. You know, all the active Moors that I know are dealing with it in some sort of way. Um, in particular, when it comes to travel, a lot of the Moors that I'm connected with, Great Seal Moors, and the Moors in our territory, um, are definitely working on several different solutions and scenarios if things were to go down. And I wouldn't say too much on video, but if there's anyone that is interested in these type of things, definitely let me know. Um, as far as health, the person I listen to the most, I would have to say, is Minister Inky or Dr. Inky. I'm not sure what the name on his channel is anymore, but it's ENQI, Inky. Um, this brother is very close to, I'd say, almost best friends with uh, another great brother out there, KT, the Arch Degree, who's into health. These two are I'd say, number one and two, I wouldn't put any particular order on that there with them, but I'd say in the health game, for Moorish people, Moorish Americans, um, KT the Arch degree. Um, if anyone doesn't know, he is the little brother to Red and Blue Pill, and he's also stepson to the famous Dr. Sabi. You know, and him and Minister Inky, do lots of videos together. If y'all look it up, they've done plenty just on this topic alone. I couldn't nearly go into the detail as eloquently as these guys do when it comes to health. So I say definitely check both of those brothers out. Um, and I think I'm gonna wrap it up from there, folks. If you want to get in touch with me, email walterbay, the number 7 more, at gmail.com. I'm going to leave link in the description for anything else. Peace and love, family.